Hi friends, welcome back for another lesson. This is week 10, day 5. For today's lesson, you will need your EL workbook, a pencil, your thinking cap, and your listening ears. If you don't have your materials ready, just press pause, then come back and press play when you're ready. We're going to get started this morning by reading a poem since we have been working on poetry. As we read our poem, I'd like to invite you to move your body to mimic what we're reading. Let's get started by reading the title together. What We See, the Sun, Moon, and Stars poem. You can follow my mouse to see what line we're on. In the morning, when the day has begun, I see a round and orange rising sun. During midday, I shade my eyes because the sun looks large, yellow, and bright. By evening time, though the day is not over yet, the sun looks red and fiery as it sinks below the horizon to set. The moon can look different from night to night. Sometimes it is thin and dim. Sometimes it is big and bright. From crescent moon to gibbous moon, it waxes and wanes. Each night the shape of the moon seems to change. The moon can look white or yellow or gray. Its color can change in a number of ways. At night, the stars shine and they look so bright. They are tiny and twinkly and they give off some light. There are so many stars that we can see in the dark sky. They are far, far away and so very high. The sun, moon, and stars can look different in many ways. It makes them interesting to observe in a deep gaze. Good job. Now, during our last lesson, you learned something new about poetry. We discussed that when there is a big break in a poem where we see a lot of space, that tells us that it's separating verses. So looking at this poem, does this poem have 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 verses? What do you think? If you guessed 4, then you are correct. Verse 1, then there's a break. Verse 2, and a break. Verse 3, and a break. And verse 4 at the very bottom. Good job. Now, we also, during our last lesson, we started to talk about how we can use a model poem to help us make our own. And we're going to continue that learning target today. Today's learning target says, I can use a model poem to plan my own poem. Let's read that again. I can use a model poem to plan my own poem. What verse did we plan during our last lesson together? That's right. We planned verse 1. Today, we are going to be analyzing verse 2 of our model poem to help us plan verse 2 of our own poem. Let's take a look at that model poem. Follow along or read with me if you can. It is evening. The thin silver moon is above the hill. The moon sees delicious dinner on the kitchen table. It is midnight. The big round moon is high in the sky. The moon sees a curious raccoon looking for food. It is twilight. The gibbous moon sinks below the horizon. The moon sees peaceful children dreaming in bed. And just like our poem will have verses, we learned that this poem has verses too, and that's because of these spaces. Since we've already taken time to analyze verse 1, today we are going to analyze verse 2, right here. This time, I want to read quietly, but I want you to read the verse really loudly, only verse 2. Are you ready? Good job. Now we're going to need to get out our planner to look at that verse 2. Go ahead and get out your EL workbook, and you're going to return to page 78. This is a page that we have already visited. I'll get out mine too. Now, I didn't fill mine out as we went because I filled the one on the screen out, but your page 78 will already have the first box done. So today we're going to work on the second box. Find page 78. If you haven't found page 78, press pause and then press play once you found it. Okay, friends, let's head on to that verse 2 section. I have zoomed in on just verse 1 and 2. You can see that 1 is already done. Check. We did that together on day 3. And now we're going to look at verse 2. Of course, we're going to need our poem. So let's put our poem on the screen. There we go. I'm going to highlight for you the parts that we're focusing on so your eyes don't get too distracted. We're going to focus on verse 2 and verse 2 of your planner. Just like verse 1, it asks us the same question. What time is it? What time is it? It is midnight. The big round moon is high in the sky. The moon sees a curious raccoon looking for food. Tell me, what time is it? That's right, it's midnight. Let's add midnight to our box. Use your pencil to write midnight. Midnight. Our next question says, what does the moon look like? What does the moon look like? It is midnight. The big round moon is high in the sky. The moon sees a curious raccoon looking for food. What does the moon look like in verse 2? Yes, it is a big round moon. Big and round, those are adjectives that are describing the moon. So let's add them into our planner. Big, round, that's what the moon looks like. Big, round. If you need more time to write those words, just press pause. Our next one says, what is the moon doing? What is the moon doing? It is midnight. The big round moon is high in the sky. What is the moon doing? Where is the moon? Yes, the moon is high in the sky. So we'll add that to box 3. High in the sky. High in the sky. Press pause if you need more time. And then the last box says, what does the moon see? What does the moon see? The moon sees a curious raccoon looking for food. So what does the moon see? That's right. The moon sees a curious raccoon looking for food. So let's add that to our last box. A curious raccoon looking for food. Oops, mine says looking in the sky. Make sure that you're putting looking for food. A curious raccoon looking for food. Pause the video if you need more time to write a curious raccoon looking for food. Okay, so now we have gone through and looked at verse 2. We've analyzed it to help us fill out this planner. Let's take a look at the words that are in the planner. Again, just like in verse 1, I see some adjectives. Big, round, curious. Tell me, what noun do the adjectives big and round describe? What's big and round? The moon. And tell me, what is curious? That's right. The raccoon is curious. And just like in this poem, your poem needs to have good adjectives too. It's time for us to start planning. Let me move myself right here. Verse 2 of our own poems. So turn the page and find page 81. Page 81. It looks like this in your workbook, just like it does on the screen. At the top, it should say verse 2. Verse 2. Now, remember, when we were doing verse 1, we went through each box and we thought about what does it look like in the morning. But verse 2 is no longer in the morning. What do we call it when the sun is out and it's right about here? What do we call that? That's right. We call it midday. So all of the boxes on your verse 2 page should match what the sun looks like during midday. And actually, that's the first word for the first box, midday. Now, you've already filled out verse 1 with me. So today I'm going to let you work a little bit more independently. And you are going to fill out verse 2 all by yourself. On page 81, go ahead and get started. Tell me, what time is it? What does the sun look like during midday? What is the sun doing? What does the sun see in the middle of the day? If you're finding that you need help, go back and watch day 3, rewind this video, or ask a grown-up for help. Then, give me a sketch in this box showing what you want your reader to see in their mind's eye. Now, you can take as long as you need to work on your verse 2 planner. So let's go ahead and look at our learning target so that you can get started. Today's target said, I can use a model poem to plan my own poem. And that's what we did. We looked at the model poem and we broke down how it does verse 2. And now you are writing your own verse 2 about the sun. Good luck writing. Have fun using good adjectives and being really creative with what the sun sees midday. I will see you later. Happy writing, poets. Bye, friends.